Hi, welcome to the gun room. How is everyone? How are you, podders? It's been an exciting old period. Let me introduce you to the guys, the podkateers. We've got Neil. We've been trying to get Neil on for ages. How are you, Neil?
I'm very well, and it's an honour to be on here. So thank you so much, Tom. I know you've been trying for a while, and
I've been pestering you, haven't I?
Yeah, no, not at all. It's just been X, Y, and Z. But I've had the pleasure of podding with you on Rich's pod a couple of times, so that was nice. But yeah, honour to be on. So thank you so
We're
much.
the positive ones, aren't we? We're the ones that are
We
up.
are. Rich is a nightmare, isn't he? Rich can be a nightmare.
He is, yeah. Hiya, Rich. What you've got to know about Neil is, you get these supporters who are like a half glass empty business. Well, Neil is like a massive glass, and you could have a drink. You could give everyone a drink at the Emirates with it. He's that positive, honestly. So you'll get
I don't know if it's positive or deluded
on this pod. Jay, back from New York. How's it go? Where did you go? What did you do? Did you nip down, see the Cronkies, and sort of butter them up and say, "Come on, spend a few quid in the summer"?
Yeah. Just got back from New York, so a lovely birthday present from the wife. So she did well. She did really well.
And what did you do while you were out there? Just not.
We
wasn't just eating, was it? Massive pancakes and all that.
Oh well, obviously the eating, but also went to the Yankees at Yankee Stadium, which was good fun. We went to Madison Square Garden, we had a look around there. Did all the sites, and we also managed to catch up with one of the supporters clubs for the game on Sunday. So yeah, it was cool. It was brilliant. Absolutely.
I saw the pictures of that. Yeah, I think I saw it. I thought he's in a bar. How unusual. Paul, how are you? Well, you must be thrilled, mustn't you? Neil, let me tell you, Paul is an Everton fan for his troubles, and they've actually had a win, and they've scored like a year's worth of goals. How are you feeling about it all, Paul?
Well, we play like Real Madrid last night, so it was the best. Honestly, the first 45 minutes is the best Everton performance I've seen for 5 years. I had to keep pinching myself to make or double check my drinks hadn't been spiked. It was that good. But yeah, fantastic performance, and even better from your perspective. We've got City at home on Sunday. I'm actually going into that game now with a bit of confidence. So fingers crossed. We might just do you a favour.
Well, that was the thing. We'll talk about it later on, but yeah, it's looking like it's shaping up nicely for that little clash. Right, first off, well, let's talk about Lauren. Lauren's not here if you're expecting Lauren to turn up. She's been on her travels in Italy. Fabulous food, lifestyle, culture. It's a city of romance and all that sort of stuff, Venice and all that. But she took a Man United supporter with her, so you can't win them all, can you? That's the boyfriend. We don't know his name, but I hope they had a great time. It's Beth Mead's birthday, so we'll give her a little chat. What we've got is we will cover the WSL game, Arsenal versus Leicester, and we will also deal with the excellent win at Newcastle, St James's Park. It was buzzing. There's so much to talk about. It's scary. There's the handball that never was. There's the wasting time accusation by Eddie Howe. He can talk. Chris Kavanagh's performance and the outburst by Alan Shearer on poor old Dermot Gallagher. He looks shell-shocked. So, Meadow Park, Friday evening, Arsenal versus Leicester. The girls really struggled to reach the level of performance that they did in the semi-final against Wolfsburg. The passing wasn't crisp. It wasn't sleek. It was hard work, to be honest. It was a tough watch. Frustrating in many aspects. I guess it's just the come down. You've got a game that's so high in profile, and then you come down to playing at Meadow Park in front of a few thousand people, and it just wasn't there for the girls. It wasn't all about Arsenal. Leicester defended with their complete heart. Under 7 minutes, Kane was clumsily tripped by McCabe. She stepped up to take the spot kick, only to see the keeper strong arm it from going in. We kept up the pressure. It was, we fashioned lots of chances, but nothing came to anything in particular. But the brilliance of Frida Manham, she got a corker of a goal. It got rid of the cobwebs of disappointment. Jodie Taylor chased the ball down on the left. She pulled it back from Manham, who found the space on the left side of the area and struck a beautiful shot. We weren't done. In the 82nd minute, Frida Manham nearly grabbed a second, but the goalkeeper flapped about, but it went over the woodwork. You have to consider the emotional impact of the injury-ravaged season, and as I say, that come down from such a high standard, going into the Champions League semi-final. But they do still sit fourth. Man United at the top, Chelsea, Man City, and Arsenal. 41 points for us, and we go up to 50 points. So we're just going to try and hang on. Now, on to Newcastle. No one really fancied us for this, did they? I mean, there was all talk on social media. It was all depressing. God, you must be chomping at the bit, mustn't you, Neil, to get some positivity out there. Let's look at the lineup. It was Aaron Ramsdale, Zinchenko, Gabriel, Kiwior. We'll come to him in a bit. Ben White, Granit Xhaka, Jorginho, Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka. Looks tired, but we'll get to him. Gabriel Jesus and Gabriel Martinelli. What did you make of it, Neil, going into this? Were you kind of a little bit worried? Because initially we thought Gabriel wasn't going to make the team sheet.
Yeah, absolutely. So just backtracking slightly, after the Chelsea game, I had a bit of renewed hope. Obviously, we had that 4-game spell where we got 3 points out of 12, and it was doom and gloom. And what have we done? And we've thrown it away. And how can we do this after having such a great season thus far? And after the Chelsea game, I was lucky enough to be there, and it was just such a great atmosphere, such a great night out. And I thought, hang on a minute, you know what? We may have a little run again. And with that, anything is possible. But having said that, the concern to Gabriel was a huge one. We've already lost Saliba, we've already lost Tomiyasu. We thought, oh my God, are we just going to have to do a makeshift defence now for the remainder of the season? It was concerning. So I was thrilled to bits when the team sheet came out and he was there and he was playing, absolutely relieved.
He looked all right, didn't he? He looked like there was nothing wrong with him at all.
Absolutely fine to me, bizarrely, but maybe it was just, it might have been a bit of mind games, who knows? But I don't see the point of that now, because end of the day now we're playing catch up. So the only thing that I wasn't surprised actually with Jorginho playing, I wasn't surprised with pretty much any of it. The only surprise for me, which is a little bit of a disappointment, is the fact that Trossard seems to miss out. I think Trossard is an exceptional player. He's been in a great signing since January, and I really feel for him. Before Jesus came back from injury, the Trossard, Martinelli, Saka front line was doing so well. Well, it was immaculate. We went on that 7-game winning streak, didn't we, after the loss to City? Yeah. And I don't. Sometimes I like to go with the adage: if it's not broken, why fix it? And Jesus came in, and yes, he scored 3 or 4 goals, I think it is. But Trossard just gives something else, and I think the relationship he had established with the front two, and the players just behind him. I thought he was doing so well, and I just don't understand why he's not getting any more minutes. But it is what it is. So in terms of the lineup, that really was the only kind of bit of a disappointment. I know there's been a lot of talk of Zinchenko and Tierney, and I really feel sorry for Tierney as well. I think he's a great player. He's a traditional left back, and at the moment, the way I see it, when Arsenal are playing well and doing what they do, and the identity that we formed around it, Zinchenko is great with his heat map everywhere and doing things and whatnot. When things are not going so well and he needs to be defending and doing the old school stuff, I think he's a little bit of a liability is a harsh word, but he's just not quite that level defensively. And I think that's where Tierney is great, and he offers that part of the game which we may need to switch to now and again. So, but apart from that, I mean, end of the day, it was all academic because we saw, obviously we got the result, but they were my only initial concerns. But other than that, I wasn't surprised. And what a game Jorginho had as well. Amazing.
We will get to that, man. That's for sure. I mean, for all those doubters out there, Podders, if you were one of them and you were writing him off and saying, what have you bought that has been from? I mean, we have got our fingers burnt from Chelsea in the past, but, we'll get to Jorginho anyway. Jay, let's have a look at Jakub Kiwior. I mean, it was a bit of a mystery, wasn't he? A bit of an unknown commodity. He wasn't played, and then probably we could have played him sooner, because what we got to see from this young lad was absolutely stern and amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, he did really well against Chelsea, so he obviously deserved to keep his place. That obviously the scare beforehand was that Gabriel wasn't going to play, and I don't know about you guys, but the thought of Kiwior and Rob Holding against Isak and Smith.
I felt poorly.
was petrifying to say the least. But Gabriel was fit, and I mean, on the day, I thought Kivior was superb. He's technically really good. You can tell, obviously, that that part of his game doesn't really need too much work. It's obviously getting used to the pace of the league, getting used to the physicality, which obviously in this game, in isolation was a huge issue, because Newcastle, went all out on the front foot in the tackle, and he was superb. Just going back to the starting lineup, I was one who was a bit concerned about Jorginho playing in there. I just thought we were going to lose a little bit of dynamism, and with Guimaraes, he's been good for them all season, so I was a bit concerned about Jorginho's ability to his reaction times, is in tight spaces. Is he quick enough? I know Partey's in a bit of a rut, but I personally would have still gone with Partey. Obviously, I'm not the manager, thank God, and Arteta is. But yeah, Kivior, just going back to Kivior, superb signing, really exciting as well. What can he become? What can he grow into? And somebody who was very inexpensive. He's going to learn, and you look at the other centre halves around him. Gabriel, Saliba, and maybe another that gets purchased in the summer. It's an exciting group, and one that will be at the club for a long time. And more than anything else, he wasn't. That is a tough place to go, St James's Park, and he wasn't intimidated. He just seemed to grow into the game, and it was an intense game, intense atmosphere from the first to the last whistle. And he was really, really good, really impressive. And in hindsight, it's a wonderful thing. Yeah, we could have played him, but I'm sure there were maybe a few doubts on Arteta's in playing him in some of the bigger games, but he looks great.
Do you know what I thought of him as? He didn't really get a mention in the commentary that I was watching. So he was like the SAS grey man. When they talk about the grey man, the one that's solid and he's doing all the work, but he doesn't get the headline. And he was a bit like that. I mean, a defender's defender. He didn't stray out too much from where he was supposed to be. And I like that. It was kind of old school. Paul, he was involved fairly quickly in the 7th minute. There was a corner sent over by Trippier from the right, following a quick 1-2, and then Guimaraes then sent a low shot towards the goal, and it struck Kiwior. What did you make of it? A lot of hooing and hawing. The referee gives a penalty, then has to go to the screen. What did you make of it instantly?
Instantly, it was really hard to tell. I thought my initial reaction was I wasn't 100% convinced it was a penalty, and I just kind of felt that the referee made that decision instantly. Almost, he didn't actually give us some thinking time to just consider what had happened here. It happened so quickly. It almost seemed like he'd been affected by the crowd a little bit to award the penalty. And I know we have criticised VAR numerous times on this pod. I'm sure other pods have done the same. But occasionally it gets it right. And this time was a classic example where the guy in Stockley Park was actually looking at that saying, no, actually, it's his thigh there. It's not his hand. You've got to go and look at this again and check it. And it was the right outcome, because it would have been, I think it would have been very difficult and could arguably change the course of the game if that penalty had been awarded after 7 minutes and Newcastle suddenly on the up then, and also really got to fight to stay in the game. So it was a really important decision, but it was the right decision as well. Let's not forget that. I was also looking at Kyrgios's reactions afterwards as well, because for somebody who'd been thrown into the team who's under an awful lot of pressure, filling in for Saliba, I mean, that's some bar to reach, isn't it? I was trying to see how he'd react to the pressure that he'd been put under. I thought he handled it really, really coolly and calmly, didn't let that decision affect him at all, kept playing his game. And you can't look at his background. I mean, I know he spent season and a half in Italy, wasn't with Spezia, and you're kind of thinking, I always have trust in footballers who come having played as defenders in Italy. I just think there's a way of playing football there that if you're a defender, that's the place to go and learn your game. So I think it was the choice. I mean, as Jay mentioned there about holding you did as well, Neil, being in the sense of defensive. But I think Kyrgios was the far better choice. And sometimes in the season, you throw somebody in and you're not quite expecting, you don't quite know what to expect from them. But I think, given the performance against Chelsea, given the performance away at Newcastle, that's two massive gains for Arsenal, where he's been in the back four, there's been solid, it's looked resilient, it's looked reliable. So I think, from your perspective, you can take a lot of heart of reassurance from Kyo's performance in that game on Sunday. And you can see as well that the rest of the back four believed in him as well. So it's kind of an impact on the rest of the team in terms of their self-belief as well. So, I thought he had an assured game, never really got caught out. And as Jay said at the start there, he's up against Callum Wilson, he's up against Isaac, who I know from my Costa Goodison Park 2 weeks ago, a bang-on form. So that was a really good performance.
Yeah, it was. It was a weird one, because when you saw it first time round, you weren't really sure. But as soon as you saw the replay, you saw it did hit his thigh. He kind of pulled his thigh up and then put his arm low behind his back. Neil, Alan Shearer, did you see it on BT Sport with Wrighty? Absolutely going mental.
I've seen Wrighty's reaction. To be honest, I haven't seen the Shearer one, but I've heard about it.
Yeah, he went absolutely ballistic, and he was getting quite aggressive with Dermot Gallagher. I didn't know that he had that streak, because when Roy Keane approached him in 2001 in a dying moments where United were losing 4-3, he didn't want to have any of it. He was pale as a sheep.
I wonder why. Why.
He was up against the big man, wasn't he? He wasn't going to have any of that. Right, 14th minute was when the goal came, Neil. The skipper. Talk us through that, what you remember of it.
All I remember is there was some passage of play down the right, if I'm not mistaken. It was then, I think this is where Odegaard is a very, very clever player. He's a difficult man to mark, in my opinion. I kind of feel sorry for the opposition.
Apparently he goes missing.
Yeah, exactly. But he's off the ball movement. Yeah, that's true. It's true. But to be fair, he's off the ball movement. I think he's quite clever. I think both him and Jorginho were very, very clever and intelligent in that game against Newcastle. But Odegaard, he manages to find himself into spaces, and not always the orthodox space where you expect him, a player of his position, to be in. And I just feel that that's what is largely a degree of his success. And we know that he can deliver a shot which doesn't necessarily have to be powerful, but very pinpoint. And it's almost as if the shot goes in at slow motion, but it's just so accurate. It's a deadly shot. And I think it's becoming a bit of a trademark of his. He's done a few of those now, where he's literally just passing it into net, isn't he? Rather than, blasting it, getting his laces behind it. But yeah, I just remember, weird. I think, the penalty decision was huge. I think after that, we kind of picked ourselves up. We employed a bit of plan A and plan B tactics into the game, which I thought was very clever as well. We were playing our game, which were creating chances, but we were also giving them the fight and a bit of gamesmanship, which they thoroughly deserve, because they've done it all season, especially to us at the Emirates. And I think that just we go and gain the upper hand, even despite their quick start. And we silenced the crowd. That was the big thing. Silencing the crowd, it was massive. And that just led to the goal. And I thought that was an amazing shot. To the vision and the accuracy of it was immaculate. I don't remember all the players.
Well,
sorry,
the distance was quite massive as well.
Yeah. But as I said, it wasn't blasted. I mean, it may have been. But it just, to me, it looked as if it was more of a pass into the net rather than a powerful shot. And it was just that's what he does. And it just, what I love about it is he's our captain, and he is starting to. There's been games where we can argue that he's gone missing and whatever else, but I think recently he is really taking that responsibility full on. And he's carrying it with aplomb, in my opinion, and he's delivering captain's performances. And he scored a brace against Chelsea as well, which has got us back into a stride. And I just want to say before I finish very quickly, I think whatever happens now, I'm still believing because I think City will drop points somewhere. But if it does inevitably end up that we finish second, I think we can. I actually believe we will win the last 3 games. I think we'll finish on 90 points. That's all we can do. We can only focus on us. But I think not only will it be good, even if it doesn't lead to the title, I think it'll be a good platform to build on for next season, that we finish strongly after a blip of draws and a loss to City. And I think that'll be momentous for us to have that run. So I think it's all good at the moment. I'm really pleased with the way the lads are playing, and their mentality and their strength is coming back to what it was.
15 goals this season. Got to be the best midfielder in the country at the minute. Jay, we must have learnt some lessons from that ugly match against Newcastle last time round, because as Neil sort of said there, we kind of matched them at their own game as well, which we'll touch on for the various reasons a bit later on. But we must have learnt something from that encounter.
Well, yeah, I definitely think so. I think just in general, I think we've toughened up. You know, we don't get intimidated. Well, I can't think of a time this season where we've been physically sort of intimidated into a defeat. Like, you know, it wasn't that long ago when we'd go to places like Everton and just get steamrolled physically, and then we'd lose the game. I loved that. I really enjoyed this performance from start to finish. Don't get me wrong, first 10-15 minutes we were hanging on somewhat. And you know, I think the penalty or the non-penalty was a massive turning point in the game. But the first 10-15 minutes was, you know, we just needed to get through it. We needed Ramsdale to pull off some good saves. We needed a bit of fortune with Jacob Murphy's effort at the post. Isak was looking lively, who looks a really good player if he can stay fit. And I felt, but then we started to play, and then Ødegaard started to get on the ball. Then Jorginho started to get on the ball. And what was great about Jorginho, and this is where he is so good, he can slow the game down. You know, because it was so hectic. And you watch it back, especially that first half. He can just slow the pass down to, say, the fullback or the centre back, and it just takes that little bit of sting out of the game, just a little bit by bit by bit. And then obviously Ødegaard's looking to get forward, and he was picking up some great positions. But what I love most about the performance was we matched them physically. You know, I counted by half time, I think it was Joe Linton that had committed 5 fouls. You know, and Bruno, I think, very similar number as well. Not particularly massively bad fouls, but enough for at least to get a booking just by sheer numbers, you know, by the sheer amount. And we matched them. Yeah, we were getting a bit annoyed, and we might, you know, okay, Gabriel Jesus may have gone down a little bit easy on occasion, but that's part of the game. It's part of the game these days. You watch Haaland, it was what I was watching him earlier. He gets the slightest touch, and for a big guy, he's gone, he's down. But from right up until the very end, what pleased me most was that we didn't just roll over, and we didn't just look, you know, clueless in response to a physical approach. We matched them, and we beat them, you know, and we were creating chances as well. You know, they had chances, especially early on, but we had plenty of chances, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. But it is good to see. But I don't think this team has been guilty of just keeling over and just taking a batter in this season. I think this has been a major improvement from us, that we do stand up for ourselves. We stand up for each other as well, you know, and it was fantastic to see, because Newcastle, it was definitely part of their game plan, wasn't it, to try and kick us out the ground, or you know, and the referee was absolutely useless, you know, in gaining control over the performance.
Let's quickly talk about him, Jay, Chris Kavanagh, because as you said there, there was about probably 10 or more nippy fouls, and he didn't go for a card. I mean, it was shameful, and some of them, old Bruno really dished it out, and I was expecting a yellow for that guy straight away.
Yeah, I mean, I read a stat a little while back where they showed but the big 5 leagues in Europe, who you know, as in red cards that have been produced, and we were like, I would say, I think the Premier League was almost half of what Italy was, or Germany, one of those two. And I think there's obviously been a mandate sent out by the PGMOL to not to issue as many cards, let the game flow, blah blah blah. But this game, you know, it was the referee lost control, you know. And I agree. I think we all agree that there should have been more done. And again, there's the old saying, you know, if that was Xhaka, you know, he would have gone in the book, wouldn't he, for a number of them. You
well,
know,
if he had done 2 of those, that would have been off.
And the Botman shoulder in Jesus's face. I mean, come on. How is the referee not seeing that? You know? Oh, they've scored, have they? Oh no. So look.
What's the score, Paul? Bring us up to date. 1-1. Who was it? The robot?
Oce. The Panman Dixie Dean, oce. Kevin De Bruyne.
Kevin De Bruyne. Oh, we'll let him off.
You mentioned the best midfielder, Odegaard being the best. I mean, I think he's up there with De Bruyne, isn't he? You know, yeah, those two are head and shoulders above the rest. And I mean, great to see you standing up for ourselves. But I think we've done that all season, you know, and it's a massive. And again, that's another improvement. Doesn't get mentioned too often, but it's an improvement under Arteta, isn't it? We've grew some balls and we're standing up for ourselves.
Yeah, every time we mention Haaland from last pod and from the Facebook page and Twitter and all that, I can just see him in his pants with Noel Gallagher. It's not an attractive thing. It's something
no, it's not.
You want to get your brain out and wash it in the sink. Yeah, not good. Paul, it was a kind of showcase for the goalkeepers, wasn't it? Nick Pope and Aaron Ramsdale, big feature in this game. 20th minute. Nick Pope make a great double save. First from Odegaard, who slipped the perfect ball for Martinelli down the centre, and the Brazilian shot was saved low by Pope. And then he quickly recycled as Arsenal skipper picked up the ball on the right and unleashed a strike across the goal. You've got Everton's got the #1 keeper, Pickford. But these are really big challenges coming in from these two guys. They're as solid as a rock, aren't they?
Yeah, I say the challenge is more from Ramsdale than Pope, to be honest. I think Ramsdale's a better goalkeeper than Pope. But yeah, I mean, they both played well on today. But you know, in these type of games, you expect your key players to deliver. And I mean, I can't, on this pod for the last 1 or 2 weeks, there's been some veiled criticism from people on social media about Ramsdale. I'm not quite sure what you're expecting from your goalkeeper here. Okay, every goalkeeper is prone to make mistakes, but when you talk on mistakes, you look at De Gea for Man United, you look at Lloris for Tottenham. I tell you what, there's some bad goalkeepers out there in the Premier League. So be thankful for what you have. And I think with Ramsdale as well, it's not just the saves he made; it's the reaction to him. You can see him egging on his teammates. You can see him really trying to motivate them and G them, and you can see them responding to that as well. And if you're going to win the league title, Ramsdale is one of the most crucial players in the team because certainly, Jay mentioned about the bombardment and the pressure that Arsenal were under. Neil touched on that as well. And you need your goalkeeper to stand up, keep the team in the game, and give the defence confidence that, okay, you might be getting a few crosses in, you might be getting a few shots in, but I tell you what, nothing's getting past me. I'm keeping everything else. I just think the importance of the goalkeeper at this stage of the season is so vital. I mean, both Neil and Jay there have talked about, going to Newcastle and trying to quieten the crowd down, playing your own game, matching them physically. And I know this time last season it wasn't the best performance for Arsenal and Newcastle. So if you mention the improvement season on season, that's a really good barometer to use the game on Sunday to do so. And I think when I was on the pod last week, I think I was going for the draw. Couldn't quite see Arsenal winning this one, but it was a fantastic performance. It really was from start to finish. As a neutral, it was the classic go-to, a tough opposition, soak up a bit of punishment, hit them on the break, scored a stunning goal, do some good saves, impose your own game, slow the game down, quieten the crowd, and then come away with 3 points. And I thought Arteta's substitutions were absolutely superb. You mentioned about Zinchenko struggled a bit in the second half, but bringing on Tierney at that stage, so you tune it up, you don't need any more goals, close the game down. And I agree with Jay as well. I thought Jorginho was absolutely superb. And I know in January there were some reservations about his signing, but he brings leadership and experience to the team. He's got that look, it's the old classic case that shows your medals, mate. Well, I've got this, I've got this, will that do you? It just gives you a certain kudos and standing in the dressing room. And you could just see it, the players trust him. He's coming in January. Maybe he thought he was going to be a fringe player, I'm not quite sure. But for this title running, his impact could also be massive.
Absolutely. Pope was involved saving from Saka. That was a really good crack. And then Ramsdale joined the party, stopping Joe Willock. Then it became a fairly feisty affair. I mean, there was all sorts of arguments, and Xhaka was involved in a few, which I know we all say about him, be careful. I was worried about him getting sent off. But you need someone like that in the war, don't you, Neil? You need a Xhaka to kind of almost get the troops fired up, get in there, get involved. There was a bit of pushing and shoving and handbags and stuff, but he was exceptional, really. 3 leaders now we've got.
Absolutely. I've been crying out for someone like him for so long. We had it in the olden days. We had the I've started really taking an interest in football in the late 70s and then especially in the 80s. But for me, my vivid memories of leaders, true leaders that I can remember like it was yesterday, is like the Adams, the Keowns, the Vieiras. We missed that for so long. We missed those hard men, if you like. And we mentioned it earlier that we're not getting bullied anymore. We're not getting bullied off the park. It's because we've got those kind of players there that can stand up for the rest of the team. You might have certain individuals just with sheer virtue of their characters may not like the confrontation part of things and kind of want to stay out of it. But we need them protected, if you like. When you come across a team like Newcastle, we know he's going to be physical, and Xhaka was great. It was. I agree. I think I was scared at times. Like, oh my God, is he going to get himself sent off? But it was almost like he controlled it. It was like a controlled, not aggression, but controlled counter, if you like. And I've not really seen much of that from him before. And I think that's another sign of maturity. We were talking about maturity in this team. That's another an example of it. You've got the difference from how we performed this from last year to this season against Newcastle. We've got so many other examples throughout the season. But if you look at individuals, I think even Xhaka in that respect has matured, because I think if this had been him last season or the season before, he'd been sent off. 100% he would have gone.
Neil, do you think that Callum Wilson, that was one of the sort of chats in the changing room, wind him up a little bit, because they seem to have this little argy-bargy thing going on throughout the game.
Yeah.
And I thought that's probably part of the tactics, really, the grubby tactics.
I think so. I think you're right there. I think they were going to try everything they could possibly do. You see, at the end of the day, with the exception of City, there's not many better footballing teams out there at the moment in the Premier next to City. We're up there. I think if you think back to the Liverpool game, if that had been a pure football match for 90 minutes, we would have floored them at Anfield. Because for the first 40 minutes we just outplayed them. I've never seen a better performance at Anfield for as long as I can remember. But because of that little spat again involving Xhaka, unfortunately, it turned the crowd and everything changed and we got sucked in. I think the difference was we didn't get sucked into Newcastle's and the crowd's, oppression, if you like. And we've learned from it. And that's a huge, huge factor going forward, that we learn from that and we change it up and we don't get involved and we just play our own game as well. That was the main thing. We did employ some of their tactics to counter them, but we also stuck to our identity and played our own game, which was creating the chances. I mean, I did feel that, maybe Saka Martinelli could have done a little bit better, but I think, you probably talk about it later, I think Saka's burnt out. I really do. I think the poor lad has played non-stop for 3 years now with international duty as well. He's burnt out, and I feel that's where the problem lies. But I think having good leadership, having good strong characters, doing it in a controlled way is massive to any team's success. Just like the goalkeeper that was mentioned earlier, you need a good goalkeeper to win titles. You need a couple of those leaders in there that will give it some, but do it in a controlled way. I mean, the only difference is, just before I finish, Vieira used to get himself sent off a lot in those days, but we were so good, we were actually sometimes better with 10 men than we were with 11, and we were still going and beat teams. So I'm afraid we can't afford to do that anymore. But so that's probably the exception to the rule. But other than that, no, I'm really happy with Xhaka, and I hope the rumours about him being linked to whoever he's being linked to are not true, because I want him to stay for a little while longer, for sure.
Absolutely. Right, let's just catch up to that point of Saka. 45+7, Odegaard nearly gets there. but Pope's aware to the threat again. 48 minutes, Newcastle hit the post. 49 minutes, Ramsdale pulls off. Probably, I liken this save, Jay, to the one that Seaman made against Sheffield United. I think it was in the FA Cup. It was amazing reactions, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's not the first time, is it? He's absolutely he's been absolutely immense, and we needed him. But that it was turning into they were becoming they were dangerous. You know, I said at half time to my wife, they're going to really come at us now. These first 10, 15 minutes, we're going to have to, you know, I felt that we were going to potentially rue those missed chances in the first half. I wasn't confident for the clean sheet at all. I wasn't, you know, I said that at the time. I said, there's absolutely no chance we're going to get a clean sheet here. And we rode our luck a little bit, but Ramsdale made a great save. Xhaka made an absolutely brilliant tackle, covering back. I mean, you know, that's as good as a goal.
That was epic.
That's as good as a goal. And you know what I also liked about that? He just earned a few more minutes, because I don't know if you watch it back, he sort of got kicked straight up the arse, because he took the ball and he got kicked, and this is again the gamesmanship. This is what we've learned to do: take the sting out of attacks if you can at any opportunities. We get it done to us weekly, you know. And he got a kick right on his left bum cheek, and he made the most of it, which I'm all for that, because that's what teams do to us rather. So yeah, Ramsdale, I mean, he's been phenomenal, hasn't he, this season? What an unbelievable signing.
I can't believe he gets any stick, because he saved us more goals than he's actually cost us.
Absolutely.
We've said before, haven't we? We've said before that he takes risks, but he's encouraged to take risks. You know, that the team is, you know, that the reason that we've got better at playing out from the back and creating chances and progressing forward up the pitch from the goalkeeper, not just hoofing it long. The reason that we've got better at that is because we've persisted with it, and we've got, you know, we haven't just, you know, thought, oh, it's not working, let's just give up and revert to just, you know, knocking it forward. Yeah, Ramsdale has made a few mistakes, but he's performed and won us points on his own and kept us in games, you know, tenfold more than the mistakes he's made. So really good goalkeeper, and like Paul said, I think he is, not that I care too much for the English team, but he's pushing Pickford now.
Just gets in the way of the domestic fixtures, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Else, we don't want it.
Yeah, so yeah, we're lucky to have him, and I mean, potentially if he continues, you know, to remain at this level, he could be the goalkeeper, you know, for a long time, and he could, fingers crossed, get to sort of David Seaman, you know, level of legend status by winning things, and he's a character, isn't he? He's likable, like a lot of the team. You know, he's a really likable chap, and but more than anything else, great goalkeeper.
His dad's as mad as a box of frogs, though, isn't he? Have you seen him at the matches? Crazy. I'd love a dad like that.
Tom, can I just ask Jay a question?
Yeah,
it's quite interesting, because, you know, Pickford started his career at Sunderland, you know, fighting in a relegation struggle. Yeah. Ramsdale started his career at Bournemouth and Sheffield United, fighting a relegation struggle. Do you think that experience of playing in a team where you're having to deal with lots of shots and chances is actually helped both of those players to be better goalkeepers?
I think it builds character, doesn't it? You know, it builds not just on the pitch, but I mean, we've seen it before, haven't we? So many times where young players get projected into or get catapulted into first teams, and they have a couple of years, and then it drops off, and they get given everything so early, and you know, they get given these high wages, massive contracts, and I definitely think, and we've said this before, you know, when Arteta was rebuilding this squad, or building the squad rather, you know, when Ramsdale came in, it was the window where we signed Ben White and a number of others, and Arteta was criticised for the amount of money that was spent on these players because of where they come from, and you know, Ben White played at Leeds, didn't he, and at Brighton, and so on, and we've spoke before about the type of character as well as their playing ability. And obviously they're not going to be signed if they're not good enough on a technical, from a technical sense. But we've also said about their character, and I agree with you, Paul. I think players that go down that route have that desire to reach the very, very top level, and will work their hardest to get there. Maybe they get there, maybe they don't, but there's absolutely no doubt Arteta took a risk. He took a risk with Ramsdale. We already had Leno, who was somebody that, I think it wasn't an area that necessarily we needed to improve on. As much as other areas of the squad, but we did, and it was quick. As good as Leno was, and I rated him. He's not quite at Ramsdale's level, and Arteta was right, like he has been pretty much from the beginning.
Sometimes you get a manager who can see something happening. Mourinho's done it as well, because he got rid of Petr Cech. Everyone was moaning about Petr Cech being dropped, but Mourinho could see something.
I think it's about creating that culture, isn't it? It's about the type of footballer that you want in your squad. Arteta he had some difficult decisions. Your Mesut, your Aubameyang, and so on and so forth. And he wanted to fill the squad with like-minded individuals who were willing to work and buy in. And Ramsdale very much is that. Pickford, again, like you said, Paul, similar characters, and it's that story. You want players like that to achieve, don't you? And you want them to do well. But fingers crossed, Ramsdale continues at this level. And he's at the club, and he's at the club for years and years, because he's loved by the fan base as well, like they all are. Everyone in that squad now is absolutely adored, and they're all characters in their own right. But great goalkeeper, great bloke off the field, and we're lucky to have him.
I think, Paul, that what we're suffering from is the majority of not you, Podders. That other mob, that other Arsenal fan mob, they're just underplaying this stuff that we've done. Let's remind everyone, Newcastle had the best defensive record in the Premier League. Let's not mess about. So to go there, hostile atmosphere. If you've never been to St James's Park, put it on your bucket list, because it sends shivers down your spine. You kind of intimidated yourself as a supporter. So Christ knows what it's like going out and playing football on the pitch. Let's just finish the game off. 71st minute, Martinelli drifted down the left wing, cut into the area and sent a ball towards Odegaard at the back post. He was running in. Had Schur not got there and poked it in with his own toe, Odegaard, you could see him just running in. He would have connected. We finally got treated to a yellow card. This is what we were moaning about, Podders. In the 73rd minute, when Byrne clattered Saka, and he'd been slammed all game long. Paul, this lad has to be rested, surely. He's running on empty. We're using him, and we've been depending on him for 2 seasons now. He has to be rested, surely.
Well, can you take that chance? That's the question, really, isn't it? Because even a running on empty Saka is still a good alternative, a good choice to have in the team. And I'm sure, even if he's not 100% at the top of his game, he occupies defenders. He will win free kicks. He'll create opportunities. So I think it'll be a big call to leave him out at this stage. I think the bigger debate is whether, if the game's going well, you make those substitutions a bit earlier and maybe change them for somebody, maybe on 60 minutes, 65 minutes. But I think I'd be very reluctant personally to leave Saka out at this stage of the season. I mean, there's 3 games to go. I just think, okay, he's run on empty. He's going to have 3 months in the summer to recover. I think it would be in Arsenal's interest for him to have a mystery hamstring injury to keep him out of the England squad this summer. I'd definitely recommend that. But I think you've got to keep playing him. And
but isn't it an opportunity now where he looks knackered and sagging and out of puff to get Trossard in, because we've got two things we need to do. We need to get Trossard in because he is a lively, energetic player. We've got 3 games to see out. We need some extra impetus. So this could be an ideal opportunity to just rest Saka, and Arteta will explain it, I'm sure, and get Trossard in, especially for the Brighton game.
Yeah, I can see that, but I think Saka's vital as well. So his game plan at the moment, I think the attack strength is built on Saka using the wing as well. I think Trossard's a fabulous footballer. I totally agree with what Neil said before about Trossard, whether he could be playing with Jesus is playing. I think that might be his best position. But Trossard hasn't got the pace of Saka. So I just think the way Arsenal played them, Saka's a vital part of that format. So, yeah, I mean, we said this pod a number of times. Most times this season, Arteta's made the big calls right. Dropping Partey 2 weeks ago turned out to be a really good decision. So I'm sure he's looking at that. I'm sure he's being advised about that. And whether you take the view next home games against Brighton, I mean, that looks a pretty winnable fixture, I think. If you were going to rest Saka, that might be the opportunity to do so. But I just think this stage of the season, the togetherness of that team, even if players are not quite 100%, I think you kind of stick with them.
Yeah, it's not us sort of saying that we don't love Saka, because obviously
not.
I mean, he's the star boy. That's his nickname, isn't it? Star boy. But it's just offering him a little bit of rest because he's done his bit for quite some time as well. Right. So let's just go through the stats. We'll do Newcastle first because they were at home. 12 shots to our 10. 5 shots on target for them, 6 for us. 55% possession for them, 45% for us. 395 passes for them, 346 for the Gunners. 79% pass accuracy and 79% for us. As performances go, Neil, I've got to put this one up there as probably one of the best performances for all sorts of reasons of this season. There's been loads and loads and loads of games where I've really been excited and really enjoyed them. But for some reason, this one's leapfrogged to the top because of all the various assets or facets of it that it required.
I agree. I mean, there have been some phenomenal performances this season. That's why we are where we are. You can't do it without that kind of caliber, can you? But you're right, because of all the whole situation of we had to win this to have any chance, even if it's the smallest chance. We had to win this game, so a draw wasn't good enough. It kind of reminded me a little bit, and obviously not in the same anywhere near it in terms of the significance, but it kind of reminded me when we had to go to Anfield and win 2-0 in '89. It felt that was what we had to do. We had to go there and get a win. Pretty much everyone had written us off saying there's no way they're going to do it. Newcastle were on absolute fire. They're banging in goals for fun. They destroyed Tottenham in 3 seconds, which I absolutely loved. And, you're thinking,
what a shame.
What a shame. Then we're thinking what we said earlier at the top of the podcast. We didn't even know if Gabriel was going to be fit. Oh, my God, it's all doom and gloom again. And the Chelsea win was just a little respite, and now it's back to that again. But, wow, the lads proved us wrong, and Arteta got it spot on, like you guys said, with his team selection, his substitutions, everything just worked. I think everything worked in our favour. Yes, we had a little bit of luck with the woodwork on a couple of occasions, but Martinelli hit the woodwork as well. So, sometimes the luck goes both ways, doesn't it? And I think apart from that first few minutes, and then again, as I think Joe mentioned earlier, the start of the second half where it was intense again for them, apart from that, we kind of dominated and dictated the whole passage of that game. With, as I said, with a combination of playing our own identity and then playing the gamesmanship stuff that they've been employing. Just everything worked, fitted to help us stem the tide of what they were trying to do, and also stem the tide of the fans as well. And I actually felt when I was watching it on telly, I actually was hearing our fans more than them, and that's unheard of. Even when Newcastle are losing, I've always said it. When our fan base,
they drown you out, don't they? The passion, the noise. You can't hear your normal supporters.
Oh my God, absolutely. I remember I always used to use Newcastle fans as an example for us, because when our fan base was so divided and there was so much toxicity within them and it was so fractious, and I say, do you know what? the first thing we need to get right is our fans. We've got to unite. We've got to get behind the team no matter what. And we're not doing it. We're fighting. There was times when we were fighting each other in the stands. I couldn't believe it as a supporter, seeing that. I just couldn't believe it. And I said, look at teams like Newcastle. This is before, obviously, they were bought out with now they're the richest club in the world. But they'd have torrid times. They'd be going up and down, getting promoted, getting relegated, getting promoted, getting relegated. But one thing that never changed with them was the ferocity of the fans. They were so always united, no matter what, and you would hear them. So for us to go there and silence them when they're on such a run and on the verge of probably starting a revolution for them in football, because we know that they're only going to get stronger. It's going to happen with the amount of money they've got to back them. So for them, it's an exciting time. It's an exciting period in their history. And we silenced them. I couldn't believe it. So that is such a testament to the players and to our fans. Everything, as you said, Tom, worked. And I think you're right. I think it's probably got to be up there, if not the best, certainly top 3 performances of this season for me, 100%.
Yeah, I think you just said so much about the team and the progress and the development. Right, let's get to the man of the match. The Zenith Coins man of the match. They're going to make me a little coin that I can show off. And if the actual player is tuning in by some haphazard mistake, I'll give them it as well. Right, so Jay, who's your man of the match? Like they'll be tuning into this, but you never know. Jay, man of the match, player of the match.
I mean, I after the game, I couldn't. I don't know. I couldn't pick any of them. They were all superb. They really were. I don't know. I still don't know. I think Ødegaard was absolutely fantastic, and he stepped up again, scored. I know we mentioned it already, but he's a captain. He's the captain that we've needed for a long while now. And I don't know if you saw the video from Akil, I think the supporter he was on the train on the way home, and he FaceTimed. He FaceTimed Ødegaard on the way home, and they're all talking to him, and which I thought was great. I mean, Jorginho got it, so I suppose he should get it. I thought Kivior. I'm going to go for Kivior just because of the it was the first real test. I know Chelsea was. I know it wasn't his debut, and I know Chelsea wasn't his debut, and he did well against Chelsea. But this was a massive test against a really good, like Neil said, real free flowing Newcastle side who had plenty of goals in them. And when you've got that little wanker Trippier smashing into people, you could just. I said at the time, he's just Spurs, isn't he? Like he's just pure Tottenham. Like he'll never get rid of that. That's just in him now forever. And he was geeing up the rest of them, and then Kivior, I don't know whether it was a language thing or whatever, but didn't affect him. And he didn't put a foot.
Didn't know what he was on about.
No, well maybe, but I don't know. But he didn't put a foot wrong all day, so I'm going to go for him just to be different. So yeah, I'm going to go for him.
Oh, who'd you make player of the match?
For me, Ramsdale. I thought the saves were crucial in keeping Arsenal in the game. And if Newcastle score early, the crowd gets up. I just thought his anticipation, his reflexes. I mean, as Jay said, there were 11 man of the matches out there, so it's fine margin. But I'm always a firm believer that the quality of your goalkeeper wins you titles. You've only got to look across the road there, Tottenham lorries. If you've got a haphazard, shocking goalkeeper, it costs you dearly. And Ramsdale saves this season. I've got Arsenal to where they are, but I thought he was superb against Newcastle.
Neil, what about you?
Oh, I was on mute. Sorry about that. I think when you've got a plethora of options, you've done well. Your team has done well. That's the big thing. I mean, for me, I agree with the lads. I think you could have picked any of them really. To be fair, for me, the ones that stood out were Ramsdale, Kiwior, and the 3 midfielders. Xhaka, Jorginho, and Ødegaard. And I think they all deserved a shout. But for me, I agree with the Ramsdale thing. End of the day, championship winning sides again. They have to have a good goalkeeper that can save them the half a dozen or to a dozen points in the season. It's crucial. And I think that's what Ramsdale's been doing time and time again. Kiwior, as Jay perfectly summed up, what a performance from him. He's such a youngster, has come into a different country. The Premiership for me is probably the hardest league in the world, club football wise, easily. It's the most physical, the fastest, and he took it like it was like nothing. That's what, you know, the way Saliba came into the fray, and it was almost like, wow, you know, he's just taking it in his stride. It's almost as if he's not even making any effort, and he's just absolutely dominating the defense. It kind of reminds me of him. So I think the loss of Saliba has now somewhat been mitigated with Kiwior. He's got to start all the last 3 games.
Yeah.
The way we were debating about Saka, 100%. I think Kiwior's got to do that now, because I can't see Saliba coming back. I can't. I mean, there's no announcement. It doesn't make any sense. So you know, there's a shout for him. But out of Xhaka, Odegaard, and Jorginho, it's so close for me between Jorginho and Odegaard. But I'm actually going to go with Jorginho. I thought he was so intelligent, the way he was pointing around, he was barking at all the players. He's almost like a coach on the pitch. It's amazing to see. And I've got a feeling he's going to go down Arteta's route. I think he'll become a coach. I can see it. Apparently he's been like that ever since he started playing football, even in his younger days. And I can see him taking up his coaching badges when he hangs up his boots, and he could follow in Arteta's footsteps for sure. So yeah, Jorginho for me.
Yeah, I saw everything you saw with all those players, and I had to split it today. So I watched the match again, but I paid particular attention to Jorginho, and he was just magnificent. I mean, he was ordering people about, you know, space there, fill it up. There was that link, that sort of, he could firefight the attacks that were coming in. He could break up the play, as Jay said, slow it down, knock the ball backwards or forwards, and he can actually play a very good attacking ball as well. I thought he was phenomenal. I've never seen him like that in a Chelsea shirt, which is good news. And I've seen him in numerous Chelsea games, but he was exceptional. And this just bears it out. Bear with me a minute. Jorginho, player of the match awarded by Sky, team rank, and it's first for everything we're going to say here. Touches 68, first. Assists 1, successful passes 42, passes received from backline 27, possession 1, 8, clearances 3. I mean, you can't really argue with that. And for those podders that were a little bit suspect about him being a Chelsea reject and all that, I think he's just broken the mould. We haven't, mind you, have you seen Willian? What's going on with him at Fulham? Why didn't we get that William? Why did we get the other one? I'm sure it was like a twin or something. He was crap. Right, Jay, let's move on to Eddie Howe. He wasn't very charitable after the defeat. I do like managers who kind of keep it together, but he said it was very frustrating for us. Lots of breaks in play. We wanted the ball in play more. We can't control that. That's the ref's job. Now, is he taking the piss after what happened at the Emirates? He's taking the piss, isn't he? He did that with irony or something, sarcasm.
Yeah, I mean, did you see Dan Burn? He sort of came out afterwards and said, well, we did it to them, so we can't really moan or complain when they do it to us. But yeah, he's a funny one, Eddie Howe. He's Don Howe's son, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Is he?
I think he is.
Don Howe's son. Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, that. I think a couple of months back.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
hey, Paul, you learn everything here, mate.
Yeah, I think he is.
It's an education.
So it makes me sort of hesitate in criticizing him, but he's a funny character, and I think he knows his days are numbered, right? As Newcastle manager, I think he knows unless he. I mean, they're doing well, and he's doing a good job there. You know, he's definitely got them playing well in a certain style. But for those comments were sort of a bit rich, weren't they? After what they did at the Emirates, what was it? The ball was in play 47 minutes at the Emirates in the season. So I mean, he can't grumble.
Well, Martin Keown on Talk Sports said basically we played Newcastle at their own game. A lot of Newcastle players were getting angry because it takes one to know one. Hey, Keown on the ball again. And it's interesting. Let's just do this. The average delay before goal kicks. They've got a chart. I don't know whether you've seen it. Newcastle are at the top, 36.8.
Yeah.
So Eddie Howe, and there's the full list of time wasters, and they come second in that. They're below Brentford on 31.4, 29.9. I don't know who sits there working this. What a bollocks of a job. Doing all that.
Tom, Eddie Howe's not Don Howe's son.
Is he not? I've read it somewhere.
I've checked the Wikipedia, I've checked Don Howe's page, Eddie Howe's
don't
page.
check on Wikipedia. I think it's dad. Well, we've cleared that up. He's not Don Howe's son, but I've read it somewhere. I have read it somewhere.
I read it. I was the same.
Yeah, but if he was, that'd be common knowledge, wouldn't it? I'd know that if he was.
Paul, let's throw this to you. Eddie Howe at Newcastle. Jay's just touched on something there. I mean, he's good enough for this period where there's that transition, but surely at some stage they've got to get someone in who's got real European experience, because that's the route they're going to go down. No doubt about it. In the summer, they're going to spend probably frugally, but with purpose. But they're going to have to get in a different manager at some stage, aren't they?
I think they will do, but I think despite all Newcastle's riches, be careful how I phrase this. The problem Newcastle have got, it's Newcastle. It doesn't have the same allure as London does for attracting players. The weather there is awful. The temperature's abysmal. It's like 9 months of winter and 3 months of autumn. So I think.
Plus, you've got to have a pocket in your sleeve, haven't you? To put your fags.
Exactly. Yeah. And most foreign footballers don't like going out for a night out, just wearing a pair of jeans and no top. So it's always going to be a challenge for Newcastle to attract top quality players. I just don't think, unless they can start winning Champions Leagues and things, they just haven't got the same magnetism as what the London teams have. But yeah, I mean, the long term project is that they're going to recruit, going to spend heavily. I suppose the only cloud on Newcastle survives is this kind of continuing discussion over who actually owns Newcastle. Is the government directly involved in owning Newcastle? It'd be interesting to see how this plays out when the regulator gets appointed for football, and whether they might want to pursue that a bit more or not. But I agree with you and Jay. I can't see Eddie Howe being there long term though.
Right, we've got a couple of bits, lads, before we go. Paul, we'll stay with you first, because obviously Everton had that spanking win. What did you make of that? And that stands you in great stead, doesn't it, for the Man City game?
Yeah, it was a superb victory, totally unexpected. As I said at the start of the pod, it's the best we played. And the good thing is now, instead of going to that Manchester City game full of apprehension, we've got to try and get something from it. It takes the pressure off there a bit, gets the fans really back on side again, and it makes Sunday's fixture a far more competitive game than what it might have been about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And of course, the second thing is, from the Arsenal perspective, we've nicely softened up Brighton for you on Sunday.
Well, apparently, according to their manager, the real Brighton's going to turn up. Thanks for that. We don't want any of that, I've got to be honest. So we've got Brighton on 16:30 on Sunday, and Everton against City on Sunday 1400. Right, let's just end with something for you to get your teeth into. Let's just talk about Brighton quickly, though, before we go. Neil, they've had a cracking season. Do you think we're going to get some joy there? Is the real Brighton, as he said, going to turn up? Or is it the real Arsenal?
The real Arsenal. 4-1.
4-1. Steady on. That positivity. Whoosh.
Honestly, come on. We've just banked Chelsea. We've just gone and beat Newcastle away. Come on.
Yeah.
No, it's the Seagulls. Just got to, cannon. Just got to fire the cannonballs in the right direction.
They have actually got some great players, haven't they?
They have.
And the honestly, recruitment there is obscene.
We need to buy Brighton, because they've just got amazing players. I mean, in all seriousness, they're a damn good unit. They really are. It's thoroughly good, and they're enjoyable to watch as well. I do like Brighton, I have to say. I mean, I actually wouldn't mind them getting into the Champions League. I really wouldn't. I think they've got some great players. However, the only kind of downside with that is if we are interested in a couple of their players, if they get into the Champions League, we might not be able to buy them. You see, so maybe they just stay where they are. Don't get.
Yeah, I like your thinking.
You see what I mean?
Don't bump the price up too much.
No,
Jay,
exactly.
Mitoma is. Do you think he's the jewel in the crown? Who would you say is their top asset at the moment, Brian?
McAllister's pretty solid, isn't he? Yeah. He's a good player, and I quite like him at us actually. If we made a move for him, I think he's a good addition. Yeah, Mitoma looks good. I mean, they've got a group, haven't they? Is it that Nkiso looks quite good in midfield, and obviously Caicedo looks. I watched him against Chelsea a few weeks back. He was absolutely brilliant. He's a top player. That sort of the deeper defensive midfielder role, he plays it so well, and they've got some good players, but yeah, Alexis McAllister's one that he won't be there next season, will he? But they've got a real good knack of pulling out gems, haven't they? And it'll be a tough game, and you kind of expect a bit of a reaction from that hammering by Everton. Yeah, it'd be a tough.
He can't stop smiling, can he?
I bet I never thought I heard that on this podcast, to be honest.
I mean, Paul, when was the last time we did a pod where both Everton and Arsenal had won in the same week?
God, it's 2018.
I mean, it might be recent. It might be recent, but I can't remember.
Last year, wasn't it?
I'd have to check that, Jay. That's a really good question.
I'm really terrible at the predictions. I get them wrong by a massive distance every week. So I just hope we win. And yeah, it could be. I mean, let's hope your boys can do us a favour, get something at Goodison, because I mean, Everton away is a tough game, and they just had a little bit of a slump, didn't they, under Dyche? Yeah. And then they fired back. I mean, I think we all had to take another glance at the screen. 4-0 by half time, was it? Or
I got the old phone. I was like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, it was 3-0 at half time. At the
3-0. Yeah. So fingers crossed. But regardless of what's happened, it's been a great season, and we've
absolutely, Jay.
Yeah, we've exceeded our expectations by some distance. So just got to keep that in mind. If we don't get what we all ultimately hope we get at the end, but runners up. I think
we're counting on you, Paul. We're counting on your toffees. That's what we're doing.
I think the big difference with Everton on Sunday will be defensively, because I think most Everton fans are dreading the prospect of Erling Haaland up against Michael Keane, who's kind of a bit of very error prone against pacey forwards. And Yerry Mina came in against Brighton, did a really good job at centre back, spent most of the game winding up the Brighton forwards as well. And I think he will try to do a number on Haaland and try to contain him. So a bit more confident defensively, we can possibly. I mean, from your perspective, a draw is the ideal result, because you then got the half-4 kickoff, knowing the City drop 2 points. Yeah. Obviously, dreamland if we repeat the Brighton performance against Man City, but somehow not even I can believe that.
God, we'll give you some sort of award or something, Paul, just for supporting them. Hey, get you something for the season. Right, lads, let's just finish off on this. Jamie Redknapp, I don't know whether you saw it, has said Haaland is the first genuine superstar the Premier League has ever had. John Matthews said, what absolutely ridiculous comment to make. And he names Henri, Cantona, Bergkamp, Zola, Di Canio, Gaza, Shearer, Giggs, Rooney. It is a phenomenally dumb thing to say, isn't it, Neil?
Where's he coming from? What is that about? Is that a wind-up?
Really? Well, he's been drinking what Eddie Howe's been drinking, obviously.
Oh, by the way, I've just checked. Everywhere I'm looking, it is saying that Don Howe is the father of Eddie.
Is that what you were doing, Jay? You were just having a look?
Yeah, so was I.
Oh, yeah.
Because I thought I'd seen it as well, but everywhere I've seen it, it's just saying that he is. So I don't know. Yeah, it's a mystery now, isn't it? It's a mystery. Mm. And by the way, City finished 1-1. I think that's a good result on balance, because they need to fight now. They need to play, and that again works in our favour, I guess. So yeah,
it's the second leg. It's the second leg next week.
Next Wednesday. Oh, yes, next Wednesday. Yeah,
next Wednesday.
So potentially they won't be rotating. If they'd have run away with it 2 or 3-0 tonight, they maybe would have rotated a few. So, I mean,
I actually think it's going to go to the last game of the season. I think Everton's going to do us a favour. So come on, Paul.
And
I think then it will be down to Brentford. And I've got a funny, sneaky feeling Brentford might do us a favour as well. That's my prediction.
Fingers crossed.
You don't know, do you?
No.
Paul,
Sorry, you were talking about Jamie Redknapp. Yeah, absolute idiot. I've less said about him, the better, really. I mean, I can't understand that. I think that's so disrespectful to the legends that have come to the Premiership from all the teams.
Yeah, well, let's put this to you. Who was the first Premier League superstar? Who do you think was the first Premier League superstar?
Me?
Yeah.
I think because in the early days, when the Premiership started, it's got to be Cantona.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't got a problem with that. Jay?
Yeah. Just to be different, Beckham. He was world. I mean, he was absolutely, but even more recent, Ronaldo. And, I mean, we've already named many of them. Bizarre comment that was. I saw that. Really bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I say to you, Paul, the same question, who would you come up as the one that stood out for you when the Premier League started?
I'd go along with Neil. I think Cantona's impact at Manchester United and the way he brought attention to the Premier League as well. Yeah, to me definitely the first superstar of the Premier League. And going back to the Jamie Redknapp comment, Haaland's played 6-7 months in the Premier League. You can't make a comment like that after such a short time in the Premier League. You just can't. I mean, but if you use those same parameters, you can make a case for Nduzi, couldn't you, being a Premier League legend or Ray Parlour? Just the same sort of thing, really.
Well, remember Yeboah for Leeds? He was amazing for the first 12 games.
Yeah,
did you see the goals he was scoring? It was incredible.
Yeah,
all right. He disappeared after that, but for the first 12 games, he was brilliant.
He works in McDonald's.
I mean, Redknapp played with. Did he play with Robbie Fowler? I think he did, didn't he? He was quite a big star.
He's one of the Spice. Redknapp's one of the Spice Boys, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Spice Boys. Do you remember that? Oh dear.
Oh yes, absolutely. The white suits. Yeah.
Those cup final suits.
Yeah, provoke much hilarity amongst Everton fans. That one.
Right, let's just finish with this. The podcast was brought to you by manscaped.com and the Performance Package 4.0 for the best above and below the waist grooming experience. We offer you 20% off the Performance Package if you go to manscaped.com, pop in the code ARS03, and also zenithcoins.com for an outstanding high quality football collectible. Do a series of coins. You won't be sorry when you get hold of one of these. Go to zenithcoins.com and put in the code ARS71. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure, and it's nice, isn't it, to talk about a resounding feel-good win. Can't even speak after all this negative stuff, and it's been a pleasure to have you on, Neil.
Thank you.
I remember when I was on the pod with you on Richards, and you made a prediction. It was 8-0. I mean, you chewed on that one, didn't you? I dined out on that for a while.
Was that against Newcastle?
It was Newcastle as well, mate. Yeah. And we got clobbered.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm always going to be positive, so that's what it is.
That's why you're on here. We don't do the negative stuff. Jay, I hope you had a fantastic birthday. It sounds like you did. What was the highlight for you?
Oh, Arsenal winning, obviously.
And you were in a bar watching that.
We were in with one of the clubs. Just want to say, for the first time this season, let's hope, fingers crossed, both Arsenal and Everton can win.
Yes.
We did that one, Jay.
Yeah, I'm not sure about what I'm going to say about Brighton, but I'll probably plump for 2-1. I'll probably go for that because it's a realistic thing. We're not very good at keeping clean sheets, apart from the one that's just gone. But that was unusual in the most extreme way. Guys, Paul, see you later. Wish you well for the weekend, obviously.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. We'll do our best for you. And it's been great listening to Neil's positivity. And I always enjoy Jay's insights and analysis about Everton and his enduring sympathy for Everton, which I really appreciate.
Well, you're part of the family now, Paul. That's why we have you on. I mean, if we can't get our jokes out of your performances, then we'll join you in the fun of winning, which is a rare one at the minute, isn't it?
Acceptably so, yeah.
It's good meeting you two as well. I've obviously interacted with met Tom before, but Jay, Paul, pleasure and honour. Really nice to meet both of you.
You too, mate. You too.
Yes, same here, Neil.
Jay, quickly, are you, or Neil, are you both trotting off to this game? Are you going to be there?
Brighton?
Yeah.
Possibly, yes. I might be there. Been offered a ticket. I've got to make a decision tomorrow whether to take it or not. I probably will.
Absolutely.
I will be at the City game on Sunday.
You won't?
Ooh.
I will be at the City game on Sunday.
I was going to say, let the side down. Vanished from the pod for a month. Right, guys. See you soon. Take care.
Cheers, everyone. Cheers. Bye. Bye.